Welcome. This is Wealth Wednesday. I'm excited to kick this off. This has been in the works for a while, I would say, and building a relationship with Marlon, who's going to join me here. He might be fresh from the farm, so just be ready. We'll see where he's at. But we're excited to bring this to you, this series over the next 5 weeks. So I'm going to bring Marlon on so we can learn more about Marlon's story, going from a farm boy learning the principles of wealth, becoming a multimillionaire, and now just really passionate to share with others. So let me bring Marlon on. Marlon, give me a thumbs up if you're ready. There we go. So Marlon, welcome to the program. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
So my question for you, when's the last time you were actually at the farm? So,
well, that's pretty funny because I actually just went back Sunday. I don't go there too much in the wintertime. We don't have livestock anymore. So basically I just went back because I hadn't been back for probably 8 weeks and wanted to just check on the house and stuff. But other than that, spring, summer, and fall is when I spend most of the time there.
It's funny. So do you still consider yourself a farm boy?
Well, I don't know if you ever heard this, but they say you can take the farm boy off the farm, but can't take the farm out of the farm boy. So, it's in my blood.
So I guess when you go back there, do you kind of feel a certain way? Like, do you connect? Does it do anything for you spiritually, emotionally, or?
Yeah, it's a retreat in a way for me because I live in Des Moines, West Des Moines area. And so for me, it's like get out of town. Like last fall, I was running tractors, doing some field work. It's just, I don't know, it's just being out there, the fresh air, the quietness, just the slow down, not the hustle bustle of a city. So
lot to learn from the farm. I love this because the lot to learn from the farm. And I just want to welcome everybody in. And by the way, we always have the cowbell because obviously the cowbell's appropriate today because of the farm.
Yeah.
But you know what, Marlon, I'm excited to bring this because there's a lot of things in the marketing world we see with wealth, and you and I talked and we decided let's do this over the next 5 weeks. You're going to be coming to the next event here up here in Cherry Hill. You're going to be traveling here, which is going to be great. That's going to be exciting to have you here. But I thought let's get this out. Let's get some information out. Let's hear about your story. And then for the listener, we're going to talk to you about what we're going to be doing over the next 5 weeks, where we're going to be spending some time with Marlon here exclusively on Wealth Building Wednesdays presented by Flashpoint. So Marlon, let's kick this off. Let's get right in. Let's learn about your story because where did all this start? Like where did this concept of wealth start? I mean, you were basically in a very rural area on a farm in Iowa. Like what led to all of this?
Well, it really started, I was fourth generation farmer on family farm. So literally I grew up with my grandfather and my father both farming. And the thing about, generational farming, that you're taught to take care of the land, to protect it, to improve it. And the goal is to transfer it to the next generation in better shape than what you had it, which today I kind of look at that with our money and our assets in that same way. I want to grow it and to protect it and eventually transfer it to future generations. So for me, growing up in that farming, it was really kind of tough times. There's trade wars. We had runaway inflation. We had high interest rates. More government regulations came along through the 70s and 80s. And farming also went from diversity to more mono specialized, into the 90s. And the thing about farming, it required more large capital, which required more debt. And so I started, talking to some of the older farmers, and they kind of confide in me. It's like, sure, we could sell off all our assets, your machinery and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. They'd be debt free, but they really wouldn't have anything to show for some of them 40 years of farming. So I knew I had to look at other options. And during one of the downturns in farming, the lending institutions, they can get in trouble. So they're always seeking out assets that they can control and add to their balance sheet, which we kind of ran into that one time. Just like in 2008, the housing crisis. I mean, the
Yes.
banks were literally foreclosing, companies and houses, and because they were trying to, take control of assets. And
Yes.
that's really a huge issue. So for me, of course, I love farming and everything else. So when I went to, the state university, I studied agriculture. I studied, how to grow crops and get soil fertility, and that was kind of my whole focus. It wasn't on economics. I mean, I took an economics class, but it was like, this isn't for me. But the funny thing was, economics steered our family farming business and really controlled it. So then I had to start asking the questions. And the big question for me was, how does one really create wealth? And before the internet, how did you learn how to create wealth? It was really tough.
Good question.
I learned about Money Magazine, and so you order that and reading through it, and it doesn't really teach you that. I bought a lot of different money programs.
And it was hard to access. Like today, we can access people. We can access, there's a lot of people that we can access. And back then, like growing up then, it was hard to access people who actually knew the money game.
Right. But even like going through all those things, and then I learned about mutual funds. Like, my parents didn't do that kind of stuff. And so I got into mutual funds, and it's like, yeah, I saw the money grow, and then I saw it dwindle, and then I saw it grow, and then I saw it dwindle. I was like, okay, this isn't it, and then I got in network marketing companies. And I remember there's one group we even switched companies, and so people would drop off and you'd be growing them again. It's like, this is it. And so then I got into investing in startup companies because I thought, well, they're smart. And so I would think they can make it grow and I'll just follow along. And I had a guy tell me one time, he said, just throw a lot of mud on the wall and see what sticks. And so that's what I did. I invested in different startup companies. And I always tell people, yeah, my wall got whitewashed. I mean, literally all of them failed, different reasons. And I remember one of them was like, I saw the board and I knew some of those guys and their background. I thought, man, this is a great board. He had a partner. Things were going, startup, and things were kind of happening. And, but then that owner, I mean, even his partner left and he controlled it to the ground. And I was like, so I tell people it's not about the horse. It's about the jockey. It's not about the business. It's about who's controlling it. And you really got to know.
So true. So true.
Who's in control.
And Marlon, what I love about your journey is you're very transparent about all the mistakes that you made. And I think a lot of people, they want to show you the mountaintop, but they're not willing to be transparent about the road to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think this is true across industry, not just here, but I think there's many people that will not be as transparent as you are about the mistakes that you made.
Well, it's just part of the journey. So then I also had another big question, what does wealth mean to you? And I asked that to a lot of people. And some, wealth means time freedom. For others, it might be, boy, I just want money to pay all of my bills. And for others, it's just, having a worry-free living.
So I want to grab this real quick because Ivy's on here. She's listening on YouTube. And you asked that question, what does wealth mean to you? But here's a prime example. I was definitely not taught money or wealth building at all, which is unfortunate. But I will break that cycle first for myself. Now I'm from my daughter and others as well. Ivy, we're glad you're here. This is awesome. I mean, this series is going to be, you're going to get to know Marlon more, but this series is going to give you a great little taste of what Marlon's about and how Marlon can help you. So thanks for being here, Ivy.
Yeah.
Marlon, back to you.
Yeah. So I think, through that process of learning wealth, I had a mentor once tell me, he said, if I have a problem and it's a money problem and I have the money, then it's not a problem.
Say that one more time, because this is great. I love this.
If I have a problem and it's a money problem and I have the money, then it is not a problem. Give you an example.
Wow.
So, like you just put new tires on the car and you're driving down the road. And I remember one of the tires, the sidewall broke and trashed the tire. And it's like, wow, I just bought these. and now I got to buy another tire. And it, sometimes that tire is an expense you don't want. And so, I just thought, boy, wouldn't it be great so that happens? Like, yes, it's a issue. Yes, you don't like to deal with it. Yes, you're spending money that you're not going to make money on that money, but you have the money to fix it. So you just get it fixed and you move on. You don't think about it again, so I remember that. I thought that is a goal I want.
Yeah, I love that. And, it really puts things into perspective, because if you have the money, it's not a problem. But, and even if you don't, because some people don't, like, they can have a problem, they don't have the money. But in my experience is it pushes you, that it creates pressure for you to figure out the solution. But that's a great quote.
Yeah.
There it is here.
So kind of like Abby said too, money is not taught in school. And the reason is teachers cannot teach what they do not know. Same with parents. I mean, my parents understood how to make money in farming, but not how to make money with money.
Yes. Yes. And Marlon, you and I talked, and you will have to work out. I have that piece I created, but to me, when I think about wealth, and I think you resonate, to me, it's stewardship. It's taken, and this is why farming, so it's taken the resources. And that's why you said everything's connected. Your time, your money. How are you valuing them and positioning them in the best possible way? And that's why, and I know we're going to talk about some of these wealth principles of that you're going to pull from, but making money is such a big thing. Not just on the time continuum, the time money continuum, but to get money and to really get your money working for you outside of what the masses have accepted as normal, right? That,
right.
8%, 10%, even 11%, that's where most people are living. And then when the market crashes, they lose everything. Then it's like, everybody's everybody's doing the same thing and getting the same results. And what you've done, and we're going to learn, you've created alternate ways to get outside of that box and to be more forward thinking, to double, triple your returns, and to really position yourself to build wealth over time. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the next 5 weeks. I'm going a little too deep. I'm back to you because you got some great stuff to share, but I'm excited to share this.
Well, and we'll talk about that too, because, a lot of people say, oh, you got to have money to make money. And that's not even true. So you just need an idea that's great and the money will come. And I can give you examples on that kind of stuff too. But the thing I always say is money is a tool, but it can also be a barometer. It's a reflection of your view of money. So some people take the relationship with money way too seriously, and others disregard its value. I mean, I see both spectrums. However, just like air, money is a requirement to live. We have a relationship with air as we do with money until the day we die.
Yes. So
money is a mirror of your life. And there's a saying, the way we do one thing in life is the way we do all of life.
Yeah, so true.
So that is true with money. The way we manage money often reflects how we handle other things like time, fitness, our health. Even companies rate your payments, based on your credit scores. Because if you have low credit scores, they just assume you're sloppy with money, you're sloppy with your driving, or you don't make your payments on time. And so you get that kind of an issue. The other thing with a relationship issue, if you have scarcity runs through your thoughts, your awareness of that, and your relationship with time, like you never have enough, that scarcity mindset, that reality is the same scarcity can also run through your relationship with money and vice versa. So, mindset is a huge thing. And that's what we'll probably talk about next week.
And I'm thinking about, you probably heard this analogy with Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar shares the analogy of the processionary caterpillar. Have you heard that?
I can't recall right now.
Okay, so this will be a good caterpillars are on farms, right? So there's
sometimes
there's a processionary caterpillar, and they follow each other. So basically, if you link them in a circle, they'll keep walking in a circle. You could put their food, whatever they eat, right in the middle of the circle. So all the abundance they would need to eat in the middle. But because they're linked in a circle, they will keep walking in a circle until they die, never realizing that the food is right in the middle. And I think what you're talking about here, now Ivy just is really, and I love what she's breaking that mindset of that scarcity mindset, is that most of us are the processionary caterpillar. We're operating in scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
We're following the crowd. We're saying, oh, it's just another day, another dollar, and these quotes and these things. And that's creates scarcity, not realizing that there's abundance all around. And now with the global walls being broken down, I know there's foreigners that do real estate in our country,
Mm-hmm.
because the walls have been broken down. The opportunity is open. There's a plethora of things. We just got to know who to talk to, like people like Marlon, who's going to share with us about the mindset. And let me just share. So this is Ivy saying, for me, I don't have the money, but I am not poor. I'm just broke at the moment. I work on the abundant mindset daily. So thanks for sharing that, Ivy. I think a lot of people are in that place, but a lot of people are like, I think what you said, Marlon, your relationship with money,
Right.
which we're going to talk about. So let me talk about next week. We're going to be talking about, well, I'll let you share. So next week, what are we going to talk about?
Well, basically, we're going to talk about wealth doesn't start with money. And, even like what Ivy was saying, being broke versus being poor is two different mindsets.
Yes.
Even millionaires can become broke, but they can become millionaires again because they have the mindset. So the road to success is paved with lessons of failure. I think you were quoted as saying that. And I believe most people who have gained wealth have had that road paved with lots of lessons of failure.
I think about that often, and it's so true. And that's why, the more I get into this work, we need to talk about our failures more, because people need to understand that is the road. It's not, people can feel like, and for me, Marlon, this is not your story, but for me, mistakes, lack, that all hit me in the self-worth button, hit my self-worth button. I connected it to my self-worth. But no, being in sales as long as I have, learning that is the path.
Mm-hmm.
And you've experienced that in your, 35 years of doing this, making all the mistakes, right? So we got about 12 minutes. So I want you to just hit the key parts of your story, before and then we'll set up next week. But you were at experiencing all this with your family, 4 generations of farmers, and you're watching how economics is basically, and my metaphor is, it's almost like the sail was ripped off and this economic is just taking the boat wherever it wants, and it wasn't in a good place. So you're asking these questions about wealth and what creates wealth. How do you know when you're wealthy? What does wealth mean to you? And then let's just really understand the rest of this, where it turned, where it changed, and how you're here today. 35 years, there's a lot of things that transpired.
Yeah, well, it's just basically stumbling. You'd hear different avenues of what you thought was wealth. And the thing is, for even today, most people follow the system that's been taught, like get a job, invest in retirement funds, grow this, I call it a pot of money. and really, and then it's invested in the stock market, which, the stock market's getting a little crazy right now. But if you think about that, your whole financial future is sitting on this one-legged stool, in a sense, of the markets, that there's no guarantee what that result will be when you go to, say, retire or live out the last years of your life where you can't really do, the work that you do today. So I always look at it as like, what is it that's a better deal? And for me, it's not about that pot of cash, it's about cash flow. And nobody really talks about that. Because if you have cash flow that's coming in month after month after month, and it's also inflation proof. So as inflation comes along, like we're experiencing now, and your monthly income goes up, you can literally spend it knowing next month it's going to show up again. Versus if you have, say, $1 million and all of a sudden the account drops to 500,000 and you got another 20 years to live, but you can't do the work that you used to do. Now you're worried, and as it dwindles, you just live in fear. It's just a really tough way to live. So
yeah,
I just kind of like, there's better ways, and there are, but they're just not taught.
Ivy, thanks for being here today. And if you're just chiming in or you're on the replay, what's your relationship with money? What's your relationship with wealth? To me, they're two different things. I don't know. I look at it that way. I actually prayed and asked God to guide me out of the money debt. And once I get out of this mess, I'll thrive financially, promise to teach it. Wow. So, wow, Ivy, this is awesome. Really, it's awesome that you're here today.
So here's an interesting thing. A lot of people, you take a Dave Ramsey, teach you to get out of debt. But the reality is most of the people I'm around, and including myself, we are borrowing as much money as we can right now, buying assets. I'm actually in deeper debt now than I've ever been, just because we're buying assets that we know are cash flowing, growing in value, and appreciating because of inflation. And so,
is that one of the topics? We got to make sure we hit that in the upcoming weeks, where we go deep into that deep dive.
Yeah, that'll be the
conversation.
When we talk about the real estate side. But yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So Marlon, actually, let me share this. This is I just got this queued up here, so this is really good. Let me see. Okay, so here's the quote we were just talking about. True in life, true in business, true in wealth building, true all the way around. And I think that's the test of the heart. It's the test to see if you really want it. It's a test of growth, and I think it's the airplane takes off in a headwind. Like the airplane, its efficiency to take off does better with a headwind than it does when there's no headwind. It's safer. I'm sure you've heard this before. And I think this is your journey, Marlon. A lot of it is just facing a lot of mistakes, that headwind, and just continually finding the right knowledge and the right people. And now you are the right person to teach it. And that's what's beautiful.
Well, it's kind of like I remember one time somebody asked, what was one of the bigger mistakes you made? And I remember, we're fairly newly married. My wife had some money in an account, but interest rates were dropping. And so I had this salesman come along, and he sold a decreasing term with an annuity. I didn't know what an annuity was, but it had a high interest payment. And I thought, this is great. The problem with it is it only lasted 1 year, and then it dropped to a low rate, their bottom rate that they guaranteed they always pay this. And it's like, oh my gosh. And it had penalties and all this kind of stuff for years. So it was a mess to get out of it. And I thought, I need to learn about insurance. So I actually got my insurance license, to study that, because I didn't want to get screwed over again by another salesman, not knowing. And so that's just kind of those lessons, you come along and you learn this, and then something else happens and you learn this. And I kind of made it a mission that every year I would pick a topic and just learn on it. For instance, like entity structures, I'd spend a year just learning what are all the different entity structures, how do they work, how they relate to each other. And then I studied like trust and, what types of trust. And that's another whole story. And so every year I just would pick different subjects matters and study that. So
Marlon, so I want to hit this before we close out. We got a few minutes. You got a book coming out in the upcoming months. Do we have a title yet for the book?
No, we just started it. I mean, it's just going to be an ebook, and basically some of what's going to be in the book is what we're going to kind of touch on in these next 5 weeks.
Yeah. And I think I would say it's carefully curated content for maximum efficiency in your wealth journey is what really I think it's carefully curated for you. And this book's going to be coming out in the upcoming months. And like I said, Marlon's going to be at our event here talking more, and we're going to feature this over the next 5 weeks. Next week, we're going to be talking about wealth does not start with money. So
Right.
Marlon, closing, we got about 4 minutes, a couple minutes here, closing thoughts.
Well, I'm going to leave this thought because it'll kind of introduce into the next week. And I had another mentor that he made this statement, and he said, I say it all the time. And this is what he said. And I learned to say it all the time myself. And it was, money comes from all directions. I don't understand it. I just accept it.
Wow, that's cowbell. Money comes from all directions. I don't understand it. I just accept it.
Right.
I say money flows to me in great abundance from my positive impact on others. But I think when you change your relationship with money, we're going to talk about this next week, right? It starts to create the flow. And forget money for a moment. Just think of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Think of abundance, the flow of abundance into your life, the breaking down or the reevaluating of the old paradigms, limiting beliefs that are running consciously or subconsciously, fears, self-worth, self-concept, all these things. Letting that just kind of evaporate, open up to the new information to let abundance flow into your life. So,
the real key is always when you're speaking, I mean, you'll say things that you just always have said, but do you really think about what they mean? For instance,
so true.
Oh, I never have any money, or I have holes in my pockets, like money just runs through me. I mean, just those kind of statements.
Or another day, another dollar, right? I used to have a guy, a roommate, used to say another day, another 50 cents. I was like,
yeah. But it's that mindset of abundance that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And yet, sometimes, like even saying that statement, money comes from all directions. I don't understand. I just accept it. I was like, I only had 1 or 2 sources, and there weren't enough. But today, I've through experience, I mean, sometimes I might be working on something and then there's a bonus that comes through on that project that I wasn't really expecting. And it meets more than the needs I had at that point. So
true.
It's just that I allow myself to accept.
There was something else I was going to say, but we are at the top of the hour here. I want to thank you, Marlon. We're going to come back next Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wealth Building Wednesdays with Marlon, farm boy to multimillionaire. Next week, we're going to be talking about money, or wealth doesn't start with money. You're going to want to definitely stay plugged in. Share this with somebody who really is serious about building wealth and creating abundance in our lives. And this is what I was going to say. Why not you? Why not right now during these crazy chaotic times. Imagine being on the other side. You're like, I made a decision. I got educated. I learned from somebody who's made thousands of mistakes. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for being here, Ivy. Great day. Week 1, we are off and running. Next week, again, wealth doesn't start with money. Thanks, Marlon.
You
Bye,
bet.
everyone.
See y'all.